You're listening to Grant's Rants. Subscribe and spread the word. There are a lot more rants to come. Listen anytime on all major podcasting platforms. And now, back to the show.
Let's take a look at this other story, Bella Thorne, who I really don't have any touchstone. I don't really know. Is she a WB girl? I don't know. She's earned $1 million paycheck after 24 hours on the pay subscription site OnlyFans. Apparently, she then tacked on another $1 million by charging people $20 a month to get like exclusive content that like you have to pay behind a paywall to get, which like is like, you know, I'm familiar with OnlyFans, but I would not be paying for anything like this to see like a celebrity. Personally, I think the whole thing is ridiculous. She apparently charged a $200 pay-per-view nude series of photos that were not actually nude, so people wanted their money back. I mean, this is like such first world problems. I don't care really about any of this, but you know, she did. They claim that she scammed people. What do you think?
This is a really complicated issue for me because in one way, I've seen her quotes that she's come out saying, I really wanted to normalize sex work and what OnlyFans stands for. And since Bella Thorne is so not a household name for me, I did not know who this woman was really. Mm-hmm. I know that she has like, I think she did a show with Zendaya. So I think that she has like a lot of Gen X or Gen Zs with her.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but to me, Bella Thorne is not it for me. I don't know her, but I'm kind of like in love with her storyline right now that's going on in her life. So she's trying to normalize OnlyFans, but then the people who are on OnlyFans making an honest living, trying to, you know, do what actually the platform is used for. They say, well, now you just kind of cut us off at the knee by making people not trust our content that we're going to release because you kind of shorthanded a huge mainstream audience. So now they're going to expect us to be doing the same. So it's kind of cutting into our business. Right. So she's having a really hard time with this narrative. But I mean, she's directed a porn for Pornhub recently. She's she's working with the director who did Tangerine, who shot that whole movie on iPhone. And I think that her excuse for this was that she was going to raise money for the funds and she's trying to get into character as a character who has an OnlyFans. So she was doing like quote unquote research for her role. So I'm really, it's a complicated issue. I don't really know where to fall on this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, the main thing for those who aren't familiar, I mean, it really is a platform for sex workers to, you know, put up their nude photos, their videos, you can infer. And, you know, that's a major income, especially right now, the way that we're in the world. I mean, that's how those people are able to make money. And like, I just looking at this from a podcast point of view, again, the show is 5 years old. When I started, it wasn't as drenched in celebrity as it is now. I mean, everybody, it's almost like a cliche now to be able to have a podcast. And, no, there's two sides for me because professionally I produce podcasts for these names. They pay my bills. It's a great thing. But also, like, it would be nice to be able to have like a space that's like, you know, just for like independents like us that like want to have their voice out in the space. And that's what that's kind of like just the sex side of things on OnlyFans is like, you know, it started off as just a lot of people have like a porn following or a big Twitter following and they're like showing off online. And now we've got Cardi B on there. Dorinda Medley from New York Housewives has an OnlyFans. I think Sonia has one. I mean, it's kind of like all over the place. It doesn't mean they're doing porn, but it's changing like what the platform is, and it's just like watering it down. I don't know. I hate that. Just everything has to turn mainstream, and it's just tiring. So I can only talk about it from my perspective as a podcast producer. That, you know. Yeah, I mean, they'll make a lot of money on it, and it's great for OnlyFans corporate, but I don't know. It's just kind of like, you know. The mainstream people always come in and find a way to like pillage it and find the money and, you know, ruin it for everybody else. And that's kind of how I view it. It's unfair that Bella has changed things like how much they can tip, the max, how much they can charge for certain things. I mean, before she arrived, that there weren't big rules like that. So she did ruin it for people.
Mm-hmm. It's a double-edged sword because on one hand, these big names are bringing attention to an area that maybe people don't know about. Like I know Conan O'Brien brought a huge amount of people to podcasts and maybe they expand their horizons from there. But also then a lot of listeners go to there and drop podcasts that are maybe more independently run and aren't making that need the ads and stuff that aren't going to get them anymore because ads run where the money is and they're going to go to like a Conan O'Brien show. I think that could translate easily to an OnlyFans where a person's making so much money and then a huge person comes in and then people go, oh, well, I'd rather see Bella Thorne naked than like Joe Schmo from the street. So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, this is a real Hollywood talk. Like, this story is everywhere. Bella Thorne is a public figure. So, like, I wanted to be able to cover it a little bit. I think it's interesting because it's like it still plays into this pay subscription service. I think if people tallied up how much they spent, not necessarily per month, but per year on just subscribing to things, they could find some ways to cost cut. Because I mean, imagine just for that one account, I don't know how often she's posting, but $20 a month, that adds up just to be able to see what. And then you got to tip and add all these other things. You don't have to, but you can if you want to see more. I mean, it's a little much. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend. I don't know. I'm still adjusting to this like pay subscription, like lifestyle. You got to pay for every little thing,
Yep.
Anyway, Jay, thank you for calling in and ranting with me.
Thank you for having me.
The ranting continues. I am joined by the number one guest of Rants, producer, host, and a really good friend of mine from Christy Reports. It's Christy Olson.
Aw, the number one guest, i.e. the first guest ever. But number one, I like that. Thank you, Grant. This is one of my favorite shows to come and guest on and chat with you. And so thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you back as always. This is such a good experience to have you on because like we can always just keep it real, And I think that's what we have to do with this VMA performance, this VMA show. What did you think?
Well, I did have more fun watching it, knowing that I was going to be able to talk to you about it. Because there was a couple things where I was like, Grant is going to be so behind me on this. Overall, just awesome that they were able to make it happen, right? And look cool, and they got a lot of attention, and I appreciated that they were releasing all the performances on YouTube. It felt like everybody could come together and enjoy this, which is so what we need right now.
Totally.
That being said, there was a lot of production there, right? High production value, a lot going on, almost overproduced, maybe. I think for me, I expect a lot of like authenticity. We're used to having a live show with the VMAs where anything can happen. And I just had so many questions like, where are the people and where are the performances happening? And is this live? And, was Keke Palmer's stuff pre-recorded? And what of it was pre-recorded? I get caught up in those kinds of things. Maybe I should have
Christy,
had a glass of wine before I watched or something.
Same. I mean, I feel the same. I wanted to say basically the same, like somebody really sat down and planned out how to make an award show work under tons of rules and things that you couldn't do and what you could do. And they put together a show, and I'm impressed with what they did. But I can't, my first note was this pre-taped? Like, I'm trying to figure it out. I think it probably was, because why, if they have the option, why wouldn't they? But it takes away the whole buzz of anything can happen at the VMAs, and it has in the past. And I mean, again, I'm grateful for the show, and I have nothing really bad to say about it, but was it pre-taped? Again, Keke, I like her. I think she did a cool job, but like, I mean, anybody can if you have 6 and 7 takes introducing like a performance.
Well, and for me, in my book, she was an actress first, but just, how I got to know her first. And when she's hosting, it almost feels like she's acting like a host. Like she's not being 100% just herself or authentic. And a lot of people, especially people who are newer to hosting, that's a note that they get. That's a note that I remember getting back in the day, so she just doesn't seem super authentic sometimes. I really want to like her and I want to support what she's doing. Her musical number was cool, but she's a little bit over the top sometimes when it's not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I were to critique her performance, I mean, I'm biased because I like her, but I mean, it was a little like overly rehearsed. I know what you mean by that, with just it being so overproduced. But I was like, my biggest thing was I was very disoriented. Where am I? Are these performances in a soundstage? Are they outside? Like there was a drive-in situation. Like we were in different locations. Like I was just trying to figure out where I was, just like as a viewer. Like, when you're watching, now they do it at the Barclays Center, but in the past it was like, okay, no, like where I'm at. I know I'm at like such a theater or whatever. And I'm like, I was turned around, I guess. But I still enjoyed it. I think it came as something that we all needed. We needed to be entertained.
Yes. And, they really did a great job of highlighting New York and making it look beautiful and making you think
so
about
nice.
New York as a thriving city. But I think they could have used to their advantage whatever they were doing with having some performances here or there. They could have been upfront with us, right? Like, we didn't need to suspend our disbelief so much that we thought everything went down live in front of an audience tonight. You know what I mean? They could have explained it a little bit. They could have highlighted some of the places where they were.
The fake cheering was a thing that I wasn't too into. I get it, but it felt like I was playing a video game at times, and which I don't do, so it was really odd. And I thought they were going to incorporate the city a little more, but I did love seeing it, and I'm just happy to see like an event take place there again. It's been so long that really anything has been broadcast out of New York other than news, so I was into that big time. Now I want to ask you
what you said though about feeling like you're in a video game was super legit. I thought that too, and it was kind of like, what's the difference between these kind of computerized, graphics and stuff in a performance versus a music video? You know what I mean? Like, if I want to watch a music video, I'll just pull up the video and watch it on YouTube. I want a live performance to feel live.
Right. It's hard because there's no audience, but yeah, I mean, it did feel like they were just like, there was one performance, like When the World Ends, or I can't remember the name of it. I have it up, but like, it was If the World Was to, what the hell is the name of it? If the World Was Ending. And it was a beautiful, like, street. It looked like Brooklyn. Like, it was great, but it looks like a music video. To me, it wasn't a performance that you'd see at an award show, but I mean, they're saying now, is this the new standard for award shows moving forward? Super digital, super highly produced. I don't know. I think back to the Britney, Christina, Madonna stage performance. It was so theatrical, the literal set pieces. Like, I mean, I'm okay with going back to that.
Oh my gosh. Me too. Fingers crossed that we can do that by next year. That's the identity that the VMAs especially have had over the years. There are a lot of shows that you'd maybe think about, that could be done not live and it would be okay, right? But like the VMAs certainly are not one of them. And I'm sure that the way that they do these things will kind of evolve too, as, we are able to go back to normal-ish or not. Mm-hmm. Some of the things will change. I'm sure now that they did it this way once, there's a million things they'll do differently next time.
Yeah, and there was an article that was floating out there that was like there were tons of restrictions. So like, imagine what they could do if they, evolves this with very few restrictions with what we have done in the past, a new technology. Like, this show could really be even a higher level. And that's what I hope for it. I'm just so glad to see like that there were so many people, even like my neighbors, like people of different ages, that were excited for the VMAs again. I think people are just desperate for something. So that just made me feel good. If anything else, it was like an event that brought people together in a good way.
Yeah, and I kind of feel almost excluded, like, from the music world entirely. I'm starting to get to that age where I feel like, I don't know any of these young kids' acts anymore. And I just really, watching tonight, felt like it was all inclusive. Like anyone could enjoy it. I was kind of discovering these bands that people are talking about all the time. Yeah. And I loved what I saw tonight, like from BTS and CNCO. I've seen them in headlines or seen pictures of them, but to actually see what they do, it was fun. It was a great mix of artists.
Well, I want to ask, if you had to recommend to the listeners or anybody, if they missed something or they want to go back, what performances are worth a second watch on YouTube?
Ooh, I really appreciated that Doja Cat gave us a totally different version of Say So. And just the other song she did is one of my personal favorites. It was all very pink and fun. That's really my vibe. If it's your vibe too, go check out Doja Cat's performance. But yeah, I really wasn't expecting to enjoy BTS and CNCO so much, but like, they're so cute. The music is catchy, and I can just really appreciate that sort of throwback vibe, right, of the boy band and that kind of a thing. So especially if you don't know a whole lot about BTS and you just know that they're a big deal, maybe go check that one out, and I think you'll see why. See, to me, BTS, I'm not familiar with any of their music, but I just didn't get it. I watched it. I was like, I don't understand this. Like, was boring to me. The style, one of them was in a 3-piece suit. Like, I just don't understand what was going on. Like,
It just wasn't for me. Like it was totally lost on me as a viewer, and I'm definitely not the demo, I guess. But I mean, like I'm still I'm young enough. I can still buy their music, but it just did absolutely nothing for me. I wanted to like the Doja Cat performance, but I thought it was boring. I don't know why. Maybe I need to give it a second shot as you're recommending. I didn't take to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Now, Lady Gaga came on for a 10-minute performance. I've previously on this episode, I have said that I'm not a fan of hers because I'm just not a fan of any of her music. But you know what? She's a great performer. 10 minutes, I think it was a little too long, but we got a lot of versions of Gaga, the piano Gaga, the dancing Gaga, the outfit changes. I think her body looks great. Not that we're here to talk about women's bodies, but she just looked great in my opinion. And
it's starting to look real Barbie-esque.
Really? Yeah. Well, maybe that's
the first thing I noticed.
But I don't mind that.
Was her body.
But that's a pop star. But that's a pop star, right?
It is. It surprises me that she is the kind of pop star who wants us to say that before anything when she performs. But it almost feels like that is sort of who she's become. She just doesn't do anything new or different or interesting to me. Like that's the same performance we've seen a million times from her. It should have ended with her and Ariana too.
Totally.
That kind of bugged me.
Yeah.
Like that she treated Ari as kind of a throwaway.
A feature.
Not being able to see anyone's faces with the mask. That's something I realize they have to follow the rules, but that kind of takes me out of it a little bit. Because I like their friendship together and I wanted to see Gaga and Ariana like smiling at each other and dancing around, and they did what they could with that, I guess. And I'm just not a huge Gaga fan.
Yeah, I want to like her. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Like I'm rooting for her, but it just isn't clicking for me, unfortunately. But it was a solid 10-minute performance overall. It was bookended. There was choreography in there. I mean, what more do we want? But it's just not necessarily my flavor. But as for the awards, like I didn't really take like any stock in any of that. Like unless if like Britney and Christina are up for an award again, like I don't really care.
No, and Gaga kind of just seemed to be sweeping them. The awards definitely seemed like the afterthought.
Yeah, well, that's
the whole night.
I feel like these award shows is the same thing for Billboard and AMA. It's kind of like whoever's in the house just like cleans up, and Gaga was present on that soundstage or that like corner in Brooklyn. I don't know where the hell they were, but she was there to collect everything. So it's just that's kind of par for the course. I think more than anything, it's the performances, and yeah, I mean it was a mix, but I don't know if I had to go back and say, hey, check one out. I guess I'd say the Gaga performance because it looked like a lot went into that, just theatrically, set wise. Obviously it was. I enjoyed it. It did hold my attention, where like others just didn't. So that would be my recommendation.
Oh. One more noteworthy one too is the Black Eyed Peas, who closed the show. Just mostly because they've been working with this new female singer for a couple years. Fergie officially quit in like 2017, but I haven't seen her and I didn't know anything about her. And she was out on stage with them, and kind of hearing her in Fergie's parts was a little odd, but it was cool to see what flavor, she kind of brings, and she's incredibly talented as well, so that was just really fun to hear their old music, but kind of see the new Black Eyed Peas vibe. If you're curious, check that one out too.
Well, that's where I'm going next, because the feed that I had didn't feature that. I have not seen this performance, and I'm actually like really interested because I was a big fan of Fergie and all of her features with them. So I wanted to be able to check that out. So that's where I'm going to go next. I don't know why I didn't see it, but that's where I'm going to go right after this.
Yeah, it was the very end, so maybe it just wasn't up quite yet, but it really was the perfect way to close out the show, with I Got a Feeling and
great.
Those guys all still look good. They were dancing,
I was
everything they do.
I mean, I was surprised to hear they were even invited. So the fact that they're closing the show, I mean, it's a good day for them. So
yeah.
All right, Christy, thank you very much for coming on and chatting with me.
Oh, this was so fun, Grant. Thank you, and happy anniversary. I'm not surprised that you have been going strong for 5 years. You are one of the most consistent and hardworking, persistent people that I know in Los Angeles, and I just want to congratulate you and tell all your listeners hi, and thanks for for hanging out with us a little bit today. This was so fun.
That was so nice of you. Thank you very much. Really, that was kind. I appreciate it. And thanks for coming on. I love you guys for listening. There'll always be more rants coming. I may take a little bit more, some time off to enjoy what's left of the summer, but I'll be back. Thank you guys for listening. My thanks to Christy and all of the 5 guests that have joined me for this 5-year anniversary special. I'll see you soon.
This has been Grant's Rants. Support the Rants on Patreon at patreon.com/Grant's Rants. Follow Grant on Twitter and Instagram at It's Grant's Rants. Cover art created by Howie Ronay. Original theme music by Alexander Arntzen. The Grant Michael Collection.